Some of this may seem unrelated to appraisal, but stick with me, because every single point that I'm going to bring up today, I guarantee you can utilize in your appraisal world.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out once again in the podcast chair. I want to share with you some of the things that I've learned over the last year plus that I have been investing in short-term rentals. I know, Dustin, what does that have to do with appraisal? Actually, everything. I want to pause here and remind you they're sponsored by A La Mode Software that, of course, has everything to do with appraisal. They are the number one report writing software in the world, folks. Check them out. Go to alamode.com. I slipped into is that Australian or is that English? Alamo.com. I think it's more English. Actually, it just is a joke, is what it is. Alamo.com or 800-ALAMODE. Of course, DataMaster, saving you time. I want you to think, how many appraisals do you do every month? Times that by 40 minutes, divide that by 60. You got the number of hours. Hours that DataMaster will save you. DataMasterUSA.com, DataMasterUSA.com. And of course, OREP Insurance. OREP is the E&O that I'm using every day. Well, I mean, I don't use it every day, but it's there every day, right? It's my E&O. It's my E&O of choice because of the great benefits that come with E&O through OREP. OREP.org to learn more. OREP.org. All right, folks, for the last, I've not been shy about this. I've got 3 businesses. Well, I've got 2 businesses now and a job, as you all know. A little bit of a change there. So I still manage, as a regional manager for True Footage, I still manage my appraisal office. So that's job number 1. Job or business number 2 is, of course, my coaching business, which I'm doing right now as we record this. And number 3 is an investment company, real estate investment. I learned years ago that I wanted to stick with stuff I knew. Yeah, I don't mind delving a little bit into cryptocurrency, and I've done a little bit with stocks and mutual funds, and I've even invested in oil futures and conservation easements, and I've done a lot of different things over the years, but I like investments with things that I know, right? I think it was Warren Buffett who said, invest in things that you understand, right? And I understand real estate. I mean, I'm not a complete expert on it, but it is kind of what I do on a day-to-day basis. And when I started looking at retirement, my wife and I said, what do we want to do when it comes to saving for retirement, getting ready for retirement? And, I looked at a lot of different things. And I'll be honest with you, real estate just kind of sticks out as something, number 1, that I know and something that I actually enjoy. And as I started looking at real estate, most people invest in real estate because of the equity. Most people invest in real estate because of the appreciation. You buy low, you sell high. Though that's a really great reason to invest in real estate, there's other reasons as well. One of them, and my big one, is cash flow. Of course, there's tax advantages to investing in real estate as well. And today's episode is not to convince you to get involved in real estate, but as a setup, folks, the thing that I looked at is, first of all, I don't want to put all of my eggs in one basket, and not all of my investments are short-term rentals. But if you're looking at pure cash-on-cash return, for me, STRs are where it's at. Vacation rentals is where it's at. Now, I want to make it very clear. Those of you who are saying, should I do a long-term rental or should I do a short-term rental? 2 things that I will say about that. Every purchase that I've made for a short-term rental, I first ran the numbers. Well, that's not true. I ran the numbers in addition to the cash flow with short-term rentals. I also ran the numbers when it came to long-term rentals. It maybe wasn't the first thing that I looked at, but I will not invest in something that I could not turn into a long-term rental should I be forced to do so. Now, it might take me a couple weeks or months to do that, to switch from the short-term rental model to the long-term rental model, but I always invest in areas that I feel are going to be growth areas and people want to live there year-round moving forward. Yes, I've bought in some holiday vacation areas, right? But they're also areas that people are moving to as year-round long-term residences as well, and that the numbers work on a long-term scale as much, not as much, but in addition to that on a short-term scale. In other words, I invest in short-term rentals because of the cash flow, but I make sure that if I couldn't do short-term rentals for whatever reason, let's just say that the government comes in and says no more short-term rentals, then I have other options. That's number one. Number two, please understand, if you are looking at the difference between long-term and short-term rentals, you need to be aware that short-term rentals is not just an investment, it is a job. Okay, J-O-B. And it is not just a job, it is a hospitality industry, right? If you are not one that would make a good waiter or waitress, if you are not one that could make a good receptionist, if you are not one that could stand behind a customer service desk and smile even when someone's yelling at you in your face, you're probably not a good one for short-term rentals, okay? Now, we don't get angry customers very often, folks, but we do get people that are very needy. They're paying a lot of money to come and stay in our cabins and come and stay in our homes, and they want fresh towels, and they want the place clean, and they want internet that works, right? And you're constantly dealing with making sure that you satisfy them. Now, that being said, it's really not that big of a deal. The honest truth is I spend very little time on a daily, weekly basis running my short-term rental business. Now, other than finding, setting up, getting managers and house cleaners and maintenance people and hot tub maintenance people and all of this that you have to set up on these short-term rentals, as far as the day-to-day dealing with customers, it really honestly is about 5 to 10 minutes a day. Someone might send a message, I might shoot them a message back. Everything is automated. I use technology. I use human resources. It's great. It works just peachy keen. Let's put it that way, right? But again, this is not an episode on talking you into investing in short-term rentals. Please don't become my competition. Actually, I don't care. There's plenty to go around. But it is something I wanted to take some time, and I thought about over the last little bit, because my wife and I have put several offers on different properties. We've bought several properties. We've dealt with customers and things. And I wanted to share with you today some of the lessons learned through investing in short-term rentals. Now, some of this may seem unrelated to appraisal, but stick with me, because every single point that I'm going to bring up today, I guarantee you can utilize in your appraisal world. So my point is this: if you have no desire to ever own and operate a short-term rental, stay tuned. Don't turn off, because the principles that we're going to learn today, the experiences that I've had today, the lessons taught today are very much could be a part of what you do on a day-to-day basis. Now, let me share with you a couple, then we'll go to a break, and then we'll share a couple of more. And these are not in any order. These are just things as I drove down the road, I was thinking, you know what, there's a lot of analogy here, a lot of lessons to be learned in the short-term rental side that I can share with my listeners when it comes to the appraisal side as well. Again, these are not in order of importance, and they may seem disconjointed, but here's the thing. The one thing that all of these lessons have in common is these are lessons that I have learned or relearned in the short-term rental market that can be and should be applied to every business, including appraisal. Number one, not all realtors care about their job. I'm learning this. Now, one of the things that my wife and I have done is we've decided not to stay just local. Now, I'll be honest with you, the area that's just outside where I live, where we have 3 short-term rentals, is one of the best areas to invest in short-term rentals in the world. It's amazing. And the cost to get in versus now it's changing. People have discovered it at this point. So there's that. But we've decided that we don't want all of our eggs in one basket. Let's say we have our little short-term rental empire all in a little town called Mapleville, and next thing you know, the city council and mayor of Mapleville decide that short-term rentals are going to be outlawed. Well, then what, right? What we've decided, my wife and I have decided, is that we are going to invest across the country, and we're going to look for areas that are fairly inexpensive to get into, but have great cash-on-cash return. Now, this isn't a lesson today on what cash-on-cash return means, but it is what it sounds like, right? The amount of cash that you put in, the investment that you put in, how much ROI are you getting back on the flip side? And we are looking in areas across the country. We're looking at Florida and New York and Tennessee and Hawaii, and we've looked at Colorado and Arizona and Texas and Columbus, Ohio, and there's areas all over the nation, North Carolina. We've looked at a lot of different states. And here's the thing. Obviously, I can't have the same realtor across the whole nation. I've got to find a local realtor where I am investing. And I can tell you, folks, that usually in the first 10 minutes, I can tell how interested they are in me, in my goals, in their job, in doing what they... I'll give you an example. I reached out to one of my friends, a listener of this program, in an area. I'm not gonna out this referral, and I said, hey, help me out. I need a realtor in such and such area. I've got a short-term rental I'm looking at, and she was very accommodating. She gave me the name and number of a of a man that was in the area, a realtor. I reached out to that realtor, started talking to that realtor, literally on the phone. She's talking to me, and I'm telling her my this property I'm looking at, and that we may do more in the area, and here's my thing. I hear the phone ring in the background, and she says, "Can you hold on just a second?" Okay, sure. She goes, "Mom, get that. That's a Zillow call. We don't want that going to voicemail." I thought, really? Okay. Hello, you got a customer right here. I knew right away that this realtor was probably not somebody that I wanted to work with long term, and we got rid of him very, very quickly. All right, so there's lesson number one. Not all realtors care about their jobs. Find those that do. Number two, do your due diligence. Do your due diligence with every one of these offers. It's very interesting when you put an offer on a property. Now, we as real estate appraisers see the other side of that, right? We're part of that due diligence process most of the time, but it's interesting to be on the buyer side in the sense that we often, my realtors and we will find a property and I say, you know what, this looks good. I'm crunching the numbers. Give me an hour or so to really, come up with something. Okay, yeah, it looks good. Cash on cash return's good. It's at least 20%. I think it can go higher. Let's do it. Let's pull the trigger. And then all of a sudden the what ifs happen. Well, what if this? What if there's not a big enough septic? What if there's termites? What if you can't get financing? What if, fill in the blank? There's all these what ifs. Well, guess what? In the world of real estate and real estate contracts, there's always this period called the due diligence period. And guess what? You can get out of a contract for almost any reason. Most people don't know that. Even get your earnest money back. A lot of people say, hey, if you put $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 down in earnest money, you're going to lose that. That is not true. That is not true. If you go through the due diligence process, you go through an inspection, for example, don't write the contract in such a way that you don't have that due diligence. But if you do, you've got lots and lots of options. So do your due diligence, spend time looking at every aspect. We recently had a purchase that we made. And this is an interesting community that we purchased in the sense that they determine the number of people that can be in the home as renters, not as residences, but as renters. In other words, the same rules don't apply to just, family and friends. But if you're going to rent it out on a short-term basis, you have to have a certain size septic and you have to have a certain size septic drain field, right? And currently, this property has one set up for 6 people. Now, this property can sleep probably close to 30 people. I kid you not. And of course, there's more money to be made the bigger the group that you host. And I did not hesitate to make the offer before I found out whether or not the septic could be expanded, because guess what? I've got a due diligence period, and that due diligence period is where I can find that kind of information out. Now, it's still a risk, right? You're still taking a risk with any real estate, but do your due diligence. I want to pause here and remind you of some great companies that you should do your due diligence on. One of them is OREP Insurance. What I mean by due diligence is I want you to look at what you currently have. Do you even know? Who is your E&O provider? Find out first. If it's not OREP, find out who it is and what they do for you. In fact, do something very simple, very, very easy experiment. Find out who your E&O is, jump on their website, and just, spend 3 minutes browsing around as to what they offer their members. And then I want you on side by side, go to the next tab and type in orep.org, and I want you to compare the two. I promise you, you will see a huge difference. OREP brings all kinds of benefits to the table that you will not get any other way. It's orep.org, OREP.org. Speaking of due diligence, what software are you with for your report writing? If it is anything but a la mode, again, I want you to do a side-by-side comparison. Absolutely blow you away with what a la mode brings to the table. Now, are they going to cost you a little bit more? I mean, if you want to use that word cost, I use the word investment. You invest in value, and the value that a la mode brings to the table, the amount of time, for example, that they can save you in the field and in writing up reports is a no-brainer. Alamode.com or 800 Alamode. Finally, we are sponsored by DataMaster, helping appraisers to input data. That's why they're called DataMaster. Yeah, get it? DataMaster. Okay. They fill out the information for you. No more human error, no more slowdown. Hit a button, it enters your information from the tax records, from the MLS that you chose. They're not going to choose your comps for you. Don't worry about that. You still are in control, but they will save you time. DatamasterUSA.com, DatamasterUSA.com. All right, folks, welcome back to the program. We're talking about lessons learned in investing in short-term rentals that can be applied to your everyday life. This next one is going to be very easy to see the connection between short-term rentals and appraisal. And the next is get an appraisal. I know that sounds like a no-brainer, but if you're going to invest in real estate, folks, you would be shocked and surprised. Shocked and surprised, I tell you, at how few people actually get an appraisal if they're not forced by their lender to do so. right? I recently purchased a home, and it was one that I knew if I didn't purchase with cash, that it would slip through my fingers, because this is a very difficult area. There's always multiple offers. They happen in hours. And I thought, you know what? I will just purchase with cash, and then we'll refinance after the fact, right? And an appraisal was not even mentioned. My realtor never brought up, hey, do you want to get an appraisal? Even knowing I was an appraiser, she said nothing. Now, I did. It wasn't an official appraisal, but I did reach out to somebody in the area that I knew, and I said, hey, let me pay you to do an oral report. Make sure you get your work file, everything's in place. You're being a good little boy when it comes to USPAP. But I want to know if I'm paying way too much for this property. And guess what he said? You're probably paying a little too much for this property. And I said, I don't care. I'm doing it anyway. But at least I'm armed with information at that point, which brings me to my next point, and that is big data is awesome. Point number what are we on, 4 or 5? Point number 5, big data is awesome. I absolutely love big data. I know it's a big threat to appraisers. Data is going to replace the appraiser. Folks, I'm telling you, the data is out there. We live in the information age. Use it. There's some great companies out there that can very quickly help me to analyze a market, help me to analyze an individual investment opportunity. Just the other day, we had one pop up, and the price was quite high, honestly. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is quite a commitment. And, my thought process was, I'll bet you this thing would cash flow really, really well. It has a lot of different opportunities and options. It has a main house, a guest house, a second guest house, places for RV hookups. I mean, this thing has it all when it comes to short-term rentals, and it's all allowed, right? It's all zoned, and CC&Rs allow all of this to happen. I'm thinking this could be a really good thing that's probably underutilized. Right now, it's being used as a short-term rental, but I think that they're very much underutilizing the potential that they have there. And so this is the types of properties that I'm looking for. And I'll tell you, folks, within a couple of minutes, literally, well, when I say minutes, half hour, 30 minutes, within about 30 to 40 minutes, I was able to tell I think very accurately what this thing will cash flow for. We made an offer on the property. As of this recording, it's 3:30 in the afternoon Mountain Time, and we should know something in the next 2.5 hours. That's when the deadline comes back to see if we got this property or not. But folks, the point is this. Big data is awesome. Utilize it, not just for investment, but for your appraisal world. There's no reason why we should not know our local market. There's no reason. I heard somebody say the other day, I never make time adjustments because they're too hard to figure out. I kid you not. I heard an appraiser actually say these words, I don't make time adjustments because they're too hard to figure out. Folks, hell's bells. What are we doing? What is our job? Are you kidding me? And my question was, is your market increasing? Oh, yeah, I'm sure it is, but I don't know by how much, so I just don't make the adjustment. What? All right, folks, trust me on this, okay? Data is awesome. Utilize it. The story I just told you about, I'll share with you on the second one as well. It's not just about what you know, it's about who you know, right? With each of these little opportunities out there, you've got to set up a maintenance person, a house cleaner, boots on the ground person you can reach out to for help. Okay, a lot of times that is my realtor. Now, that's not his or her job, but it's a service industry as well. Hey, who do you think would be a good house cleaner? I found 2 house cleaners in distant markets, right? Just by asking my realtor for recommendation. Again, it's not about what you know, it's more about who you know. Next point, cash is king. I told you the story about picking up a little place in a distant market that is very much increasing, very much competitive, and had no problem actually getting that offer accepted. Why? Because I was the only one that came to the table with cash. Next point, neighborhoods typically have a higher value when short-term rentals can happen. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here because I already did an episode a couple of weeks ago about appraisal when it comes to short-term rentals. Now, there are experts out there and people that I highly respect that say, we really should not be appraising short-term rentals unless we do it from a business perspective, which means we need to have a commercial license. Now, I can see that point, and I would say this. The other day somebody said on a forum, I've never appraised a short-term rental before in my life. And I wanted to jump. I didn't do it, but I wanted to jump in and said, yeah, you have. You just didn't know it was there, right? These things are happening everywhere. They're happening in normal neighborhoods, and you can walk through a property and never know that this thing is being short-term rented, right? They're happening all the time. But here's one thing you do need to pay attention to, right? The neighborhoods that allow short-term rentals versus those that don't, is there a difference in value? This is why it's so important to choose your highest and best use comps accordingly, okay? The area that we have 3 short-term rentals in, I can tell you all day long because I watch what comes up, the listings that come up, and I can see, okay, square footage, I can see generally the condition, I see the price, I can tell you right now they don't allow short-term rentals. And then I'll go do my due diligence. Sure enough, that subdivision doesn't allow it. Why? Because it's 20, 30% lower than anything else around it. right? It makes a difference. Now, not in all markets. This happens to be a market that's really hot for short-term rentals, and frankly, it makes a big difference in that market. It's not going to make that kind of a difference in every market, but as appraisers, you at least need to be aware of what's going on. So there are the points. Let me recap them very quickly. These are the lessons that I've learned by purchasing and being involved in short-term rentals. Number one, not all realtors care about their job. Number two, do your due diligence. Number three, get an appraisal. Big data is awesome. What are we on? 5? It's not about what you know. Cash is king. Neighborhoods typically have a higher value when short-term rentals can happen. Thank you for joining me today, folks. Hopefully these lessons learned can help you in your everyday business. And as you grow your business, please reach out to me. I would love to be a part of that journey with you. Be a part of the All-Star team. It's a great opportunity to associate with other like-minded appraisers who are all trying to grow their business and become successful as real estate appraisers across the country. It's the best community of appraisers you can ever belong to. It's the All-Star team, and you can find them on my website, theappraisercoach.com.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
Dustin, what does that have to do with appraisal? Actually, everything. Actually, everything.